You will never rise higher than the way you see yourself. That's not a motivational quote, it's a law of life. Your self-position is the internal thermostat that sets the limits on how far you'll go, how much you'll try, and how much you'll allow yourself to receive. You may have dreams of abundance, but if you see yourself as small, broken, or undeserving, you will unconsciously sabotage every opportunity that contradicts that image. Most people are not held back by a lack of talent. They're not blocked by a lack of resources. They're limited by a mental image of themselves that was shaped by years of fear, failure, criticism, and conditioning. They try to chase success without ever upgrading the internal story they believe about who they are. And when you do that, success becomes temporary at best and destructive at worst. If you see yourself as a $50,000 a year person, that's what you'll earn. Even if someone hands you $200,000, 0 cents, you'll find a way to shrink your decisions, your confidence, and your results until they match what you believe you're worth. This is why lottery winners go broke and some entrepreneurs plateau. They never expanded their self-emotion. Your brain is wired to make you consistent with your identity. So if deep down you believe you're average, your actions will reflect that. You'll procrastinate on bold moves. You'll play it safe when you should take the leap. You'll speak quietly when you should speak with power. It's not your lack of ability, it's your distorted identity that's doing the damage. You were not born with this self-image. You were programmed into it. You were shaped by teachers who didn't see your brilliance, parents who passed down their fears, environments that punished ambition, experiences that wounded your confidence. But the good news is, what was programmed can be reprogrammed if you're willing to confront it. Most people avoid the deep work of reprogramming their self-image because it's uncomfortable. It means unlearning years of self-doubt. It means confronting the moments where you let yourself down. It means forgiving yourself for believing lies about your worth, your value, and your capability. But the cost of staying the same is too high. You cannot afford to live another year being a version of yourself that you tolerate instead of one you admire. It takes courage to rebuild your self-esteem from the ground up, but it's possible. It starts with awareness. Pay attention to how you talk to yourself when you fail. Watch how you respond when someone compliments you. Observe how you react when opportunity knocks. Are you shrinking? Are you doubting? Are you hesitating? That's your current self-esteem trying to keep you at the old level. Next, you must choose a new identity, not based on your past, but based on your potential. Who would you be if you had no fear? How would you walk, talk, think, and decide if you knew you were destined for greatness? Start acting from that identity now, not after you achieve something, not after someone validates you. Start today. Your subconscious doesn't care if your identity is real or imagined. It just follows what you feed it consistently. That means you can choose to show up daily as the person you desire to become. Speak what that version of you would speak. Dress how they would dress. Make decisions from that mindset. Train your brain to believe it before the results even show up. Affirmations are powerful, but they're not magic. They only work when they're backed by aligned action. If you say, "I'm confident," but continue to avoid every uncomfortable situation, you're lying to your nervous system. But if you take action while scared, if you show up even when your voice shakes, you start proving to yourself that you are who you say you are. Rebuilding your self-feel also means being selective with your environment. Who you surround yourself with will either reinforce your past identity or support your future one. Spend time with people who speak life into your vision, who challenge you to rise, who treat you like the powerful, capable person you're becoming, even on days you don't feel like it. Your self-imagination affects every goal you set. If you see yourself as a leader, you'll set bold goals. If you see yourself as an imposter, you'll shrink your goals to stay comfortable. So if you find yourself setting goals that don't excite you or stretch you, it's a sign you need to go back and upgrade how you see yourself. You also have to be ruthless with internal lies. That voice that says you're not good enough, smart enough, or ready, that's not truth. That's programming. challenge it, replace it, speak truth back to it, the mind will repeat whatever you rehearse. So rehearse greatness, not guilt. Rehearse strength, not shame. Journaling is a powerful tool for shifting your identity. Write about the person you're becoming. Describe them in vivid detail. Capture their habits, their energy, their mindset, and then close the gap. Act as if you are already that person. Because the fastest way to become something new is to behave like it's already true. Remember, your identity is always catching up to your activity. You don't wait to feel like a high achiever before you act like one. You move first, you show up first, you commit first, and eventually your identity will align. Results follow belief, but belief follows consistent action. Comparison will kill your confidence. Don't build your self-premiere based on someone else's highlight reel. You're not behind, you're not late, you're not less than. You're on your own timeline, mastering your own lessons. Your worth isn't found in being the best, it's found in being authentic and fully engaged in your process. Forgive yourself for not knowing better before. You spent too much time being hard on yourself for the way you handled past seasons, but that version of you did the best they could. Now you know more. Now you can do more. The past doesn't define your ceiling. The decision you make today does. Identity transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's not a one-time decision. It's a daily commitment. Some days you feel like you're regressing, but every step forward, every act of courage, every mindset shift is a deposit into your future self. The key is consistency. Repetition builds belief. And belief, once locked in, becomes a force that moves mountains. Once you believe you are worthy, unstoppable, and powerful, there is no limit to what you'll allow yourself to experience, build, or receive. Because the outside world will always match what you deeply believe is possible inside. The key isn't to try harder, it's to become more. Don't just chase goals, build the identity that makes those goals natural. You can have more, but only when you become more. And to become more, you must see yourself as more, speak about yourself as more, and carry yourself as more before anyone else does. You don't get wealthy by chasing money. You become the kind of person that money chases. That statement flips the entire mindset of the average person, because most people have been trained to pursue money as if it's some elusive reward you catch by running faster, working harder, or finding the next big opportunity. But wealth is not a race, it's a result. And money doesn't respond to desperation, it responds to value. When you chase money, you communicate lack. But when you develop yourself, master your gift, and walk in your purpose, money is drawn to you like a magnet. The truth is, money flows in the direction of value. If you want more money, the key is to become more valuable, not just in your career or business, but in your mindset, your skill set, and your problem-solving ability. People pay for solutions, not time. And the bigger the problems you can solve, the bigger the compensation you receive. That's why two people can work the same number of hours, but one earns 10 times more, because they've trained themselves to operate at a higher level of impact. Chasing money leads to short-term wins, but long-term frustration. You might get a quick sale, a fast hustle, or a temporary check, but it won't last. Because if your internal development doesn't match your external reward, you'll lose it just as fast as you got it. That's why so many people get a financial breakthrough but can't sustain it. They never became the kind of person who could handle that level of responsibility, discipline, or strategy. Money without maturity creates instability. Instead of asking, how can I make more money? Start asking, how can I become more valuable? Because wealth follows worth. And worth is built in the unseen hours, the time you spend refining your craft, stretching your mindset, expanding your emotional intelligence, and learning how to lead, serve, and deliver at a higher level. Those aren't glamorous things. They're not instantly rewarded, but they lay the foundation for abundance to find you and stay with you. It's also important to understand that money is not just about logic, it's about energy. People are attracted to confidence, clarity, and certainty. When you become someone who moves with intention, speaks with authority, and walks with discipline, people trust you more. Opportunities come more easily. Clients feel safer investing with you. It's not manipulation, it's alignment. You're not performing, you're becoming. And that shift from chasing to attracting changes everything. This principle also applies to how you see yourself. If you view yourself as someone who's always struggling, scraping, or surviving, you'll keep acting in ways that reinforce that identity. You'll take low-paying jobs, settle for underpriced contracts, and say yes to clients who drain your energy. But when you shift your self-image and begin to see yourself as a high-value individual with something powerful to offer, your standards rise. And as your standards rise, so does your income. You can't cheat this process. You can't fake your way into wealth. You might get a quick win, but sustained success only comes to those who grow into it. That's why personal development isn't optional. It's essential. Because every new level of financial blessing demands a higher level of personal capacity. If you want the money to multiply, you must multiply. If you want to handle millions, you must develop the thinking, behavior, and systems of someone who can manage millions. When you become someone who consistently solves problems, communicates effectively, and leads with integrity, you become rare. And in the marketplace, rarity equals value. Money chases rare people. Not because they're perfect, but because they put in the time to separate themselves from the average. They've paid the price in discipline, in humility, and in service. And that price they paid positioned them for the kind of wealth that's not just financial, but fulfilling. You don't need to chase what you can attract. You don't need to beg for opportunities when you've built the character and competence to create them. This is the path of those who build legacy. They're not obsessed with the bag. They're obsessed with becoming the person who deserves the bag. They know that the right mindset, habits, and identity will open doors no shortcut ever could. They trust that when they do the inner work, the outer rewards will follow without force. It's not about being in the right place at the right time. It's about being the right person all the time. The world pays people who can solve problems, lead others, and bring consistent value. So instead of chasing the next check, build yourself into someone who can write their own. Let money chase the version of you that's so developed, so disciplined, and so aligned with purpose that wealth becomes the natural byproduct of who you are. Personal growth is not just a nice idea. It's the engine that powers every area of your life. The quality of your mindset, beliefs, and habits sets the tone for everything you experience, from your finances to your relationships, from your health to your inner peace. When you grow as a person, everything connected to you begins to shift. But when you stay stagnant internally, no matter how much you try to force external change, you'll keep circling the same patterns, problems, and frustration. Your income is a reflection of your level of personal growth. It's not about luck, background, or talent alone. It's about how much value you bring to the world and how well you handle responsibility. If you struggle with self-discipline, procrastination, or fear of failure, those internal limitations will block your ability to earn, create, and scale. You can't out-earn your self-emission, and you can't sustain more than you've been trained to manage. Growth in your finances begins with growth in your mindset. Your relationships are directly shaped by your emotional maturity. If you haven't learned how to communicate effectively, manage conflict, forgive quickly, and set healthy boundaries, your relationships will stay in a constant state of stress or instability. Love is not enough. Growth is what makes love last. You don't just attract who you want, you attract who you are. The more you grow in empathy, self-awareness, and intentionality, the healthier your connections will become. Your physical health is also tied to your personal development. Discipline, consistency, and mindset all affect how you care for your body. Growth teaches you how to delay gratification, break negative habits, and stay focused on long-term rewards instead of short-term comfort. Without growth, it's easy to keep saying, "I'll start tomorrow," until years pass and nothing has changed. But when you grow as a person, your body becomes a reflection of your commitment to excellence and stewardship. Career is shaped by your willingness to evolve. Promotions don't just go to the hardest worker, they go to the person who has developed leadership, decision-making, and vision. Growth teaches you how to think beyond tasks and begin operating at a higher level of strategy and innovation. The people who rise are those who outgrow their job descriptions by becoming irreplaceable. They don't just meet expectations, they transform environments because they've first transformed themselves. Your spiritual life deepens through growth. The more you understand yourself, the more you can align with your purpose. Growth brings clarity about your values, your convictions, and your connection to something greater than you. It teaches you how to hear with discernment, act with integrity, and live with eternal perspective. A shallow life often comes from a shallow inner world. But as you grow, your life begins to carry depth, weight, and substance that impacts others in ways that surface-level success never could. Your confidence is rooted in growth. You don't become bold by waiting to feel ready. You become bold by stacking wins, gaining knowledge, and learning from every experience. Personal growth gives you a history of resilience that you can lean on. It gives you evidence that you can overcome, adapt, and win. Without growth, insecurity becomes your default. But with growth, courage becomes your new normal, even in the face of fear. Your decision-making improves as you grow. Immature people react. Mature people respond. Growth teaches you how to pause, reflect, and evaluate instead of making impulsive choices that cost you peace, time, or opportunity. When you grow in wisdom, you stop making the same mistakes over and over. You begin to make decisions that serve your future, not just your feelings in the moment. Your ability to lead is shaped by your personal development. Leadership is not about titles, it's about influence. And influence begins with credibility. If you haven't mastered yourself, you won't be able to lead others. Growth builds the internal infrastructure that leadership demands. Patience, clarity, accountability, and vision. You don't rise in leadership by demand. You rise because people see you've paid the price in character, discipline, and service. Every breakthrough you desire is on the other side of personal growth. The problems you keep repeating, the frustrations you face, the opportunities you keep missing, those aren't random. They're signals that it's time to grow, and as you grow, you gain the capacity to step into more, carry more, and become more. Growth is not a one-time event. It's the foundation of a life that works, a future that expands, and a purpose that multiplies and impact. Treat personal development like your greatest investment because it pays dividends no market can match. The return on developing your mindset, habits, skills, and character far outweighs any return you'll get from stocks, real estate, or crypto. Those things can go up and down. They can be lost, stolen, or devalued. But the person you become through intentional growth is something no one can ever take away from you. When you invest in yourself, you're investing in the one asset that controls how everything else in your life performs. Most people spend more money upgrading their phones than upgrading their minds. They'll buy entertainment, but not education. They'll spend hours scrolling, but won't spend 30 minutes reading a book that could shift their mindset. And they wonder why they stay stuck. The truth is, your outer world will never consistently outperform your inner development. You get more out of life by working harder alone. You get more by becoming more. And becoming more only happens when you prioritize growth like your life depends on it, because it does. When you see personal development as a cost, you'll always put it off. But when you see it as an investment, you'll make it a non-negotiable. That means you stop waiting for someone to sponsor your success. You stop asking, who's going to help me? And start asking, what can I do to grow right now? Whether it's a book, a coach, a course, a conference, or quiet time with yourself. Every seed you plant in your development will eventually bear fruit in your results. Your level of personal development determines your earning potential. If you want to increase your income, increase your skill set, master your craft, expand your knowledge, improve your communication, learn how to lead, how to sell, how to influence. No matter your industry, people are paid for the problems they solve. And the more developed you are, the more problems you can solve and the more income you can command. The ceiling on your income is really the ceiling on your personal growth. But it's not just about money. Personal development determines your peace. It determines how you handle adversity, how you bounce back from failure, and how you respond to pressure. The person who is developed emotionally and mentally doesn't break when life gets hard. They bend, adapt, and keep moving. That's not natural strength. That's trained strength. It comes from doing the internal reps when no one is watching, from facing yourself, being honest, and growing through every lesson life brings. It also shapes your relationships. When you grow, you stop needing others to fill your emotional gaps. You stop blaming people for your unhappiness. You stop looking for validation and start operating from wholeness. Growth teaches you how to listen better, love better, and lead better in your relationships. You show up with more patience, more wisdom, and more self-awareness. And as you change, the people you attract and connect with start to change too. You cannot grow consistently and stay stuck permanently. One always gives way to the other. That's why personal development must become your lifestyle, not a one-time event. It's not something you do only when things fall apart. It's something you build into your daily routine, your habits, and your priorities. Just like you brush your teeth or eat meals, you feed your mind, you challenge your thinking, and you monitor your progress. You do it not because you're broken, but because you know you're built for more. Growth is not always exciting. Sometimes it's slow, boring, and uncomfortable. But those are the moments that matter most. It's easy to feel good at a seminar or during a breakthrough session, but the real transformation happens in the daily decision to stay committed when it feels like nothing is changing. That consistency creates compound growth, and over time, it reshapes how you think, what you believe, and what you expect from life. There will always be an excuse not to invest in yourself. You'll say you don't have the time, the money, or the energy. But the truth is, the cost of not growing is far greater than the cost of any program, book, or mentorship. Staying the same is expensive. It costs you peace, purpose, and potential. It costs you opportunities you're not prepared to receive. So when you start treating personal development like your greatest investment, you stop asking, how much does it cost? And start asking, how much will it cost me if I don't? Every area of life responds to the work you do on yourself. Your mind is your greatest resource. Your habits are your greatest leverage. Your character is your greatest protection. And your personal development is the master key that unlocks all three. When you understand that, growth stops being optional. It becomes urgent. You don't do it when it's convenient. You do it because you know everything you desire is connected to the person you're becoming. Stop blaming circumstances, start building capacity. Because the moment you shift from pointing at what's outside of you to developing what's inside of you, your power multiplies. Circumstances are not the final authority in your life. Your response is. What happens to you matters far less than what happens in you. Life will always throw obstacles, delays, and disappointments your way. But if you spend your life blaming those things, you'll never rise above them. The only way out is up. And the only way up is to grow stronger, wiser, and more capable. Blaming circumstances is easy because it gives you a way out. It justifies staying the same, it protects your ego, and numbs your accountability. But it also traps you in a cycle of weakness, where every problem is someone else's fault and every delay is beyond your control. That mindset might feel safe, but it's a prison disguised as protection. When you give your power away to circumstances, you disqualify yourself from breakthrough. You stop asking, what can I do? And start saying, there's nothing I can do. And that's how dreams die quietly, buried under excuses that sound reasonable, but produce no results. Capacity is the ability to carry more, lead more, do more, and become more. And the truth is, most people are praying for blessings they don't have the capacity to hold. They want elevation without preparation. They want a bigger platform without stronger foundations. But life doesn't work that way. You don't get more because you want more. You get more because you become more. And the becoming happens